We're just going to get going right here. We've done some funny openings, some silly openings. We've done a serious opening or two. There can't be anything Kent says this week to get me to be sarcastic.
Bet you're wrong.
What do you mean?
They're teaching our kids lies to get them to believe the stupid evolution religion, and it's nothing but a religion.
Right. Opening the Church of the Divine Darwin. So last week, we spent a full episode on the geologic column and how Kent doesn't understand a single bit on how it works. This all boils down to Kent thinking the Earth is just 6,000 years old. So of course, he can't have anything that would contradict that now, right? This is why the evidence for the age of the Earth is so painful for him. He needs the Earth to be young, and he is attacking things that show age as much as he can without giving a single shred of evidence for it. None. Most of last week's, and pretty much every week's videos, are just him saying everything he hates is silly or stupid or religion. What, like this first clip.
200 years, people have been trying to spread their lie of evolution using just plain lies. They just are lying to the kids. It's not true. They make up these silly trees of life. They draw a line connecting all the different life forms, and that's supposed to be proof that it happened.
Now, you see what Kent did there? The diagrams of the tree of life are not the proof. But he is going to say something like that to naive people so they think it actually is. The tree of life is the order we found the creatures in. They are an easy-to-read interpretation of the actual evidence we have found over the centuries. Now, if Kent said that to his audience, do you think they would ask to see what Kent thinks about the actual evidence? Of course they would. And Kent would just have to hand-wave dismiss that too. And what does he usually say?
20 times in the first 7 chapters, God said they'll bring forth after their kind. 13 more times in the next 4 books of the Bible.
After their kind. You know what, Kent? I agree. Now, the really stupid part is you have no idea why I can agree with that and it not be an issue for evolution. It's because a cow will make a cow, and a dog will make a dog. Their offspring will appear almost perfectly identical. That is called microevolution. Each offspring then reproduces and makes new offspring, over and over with little tiny changes here and there, until the kind of thing it is a new kind of thing. But it was always, and will always, be the old kind of thing. Like you and I, and the grass, and the trees, and the flowers, and the bugs, the animals, the snails, and everything is of the eukaryote kind. So we are all the same kind of thing. Now the funniest part of all of this is you will never, ever hear Kent tell you what a kind is.
Evolution teaches they change into new kinds. Somebody is lying.
It's you, Kent. Evolution does not have a kind in the tree of life. Is that what this one is about? The tree of life?
Maybe.
Oh, good. You're here. You're late. What kept you?
It's a transactional fucking, you see.
I don't want to know. Are you ready to go?
Let's get it started!
Well, we already started. We were talking about Kent being the typical
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, that. But more specifically, Kent BSing his way through trying to say evolution says a creature will turn into a new kind of creature. But what science actually says is that the new kind of creature is still the old kind of creature while being a new kind of creature. Let me explain. So let's take a dog and a bear. Millions of years ago, they were both of the order Carnivora. They were both just the same species, a carnivore. Now, I won't go too deep into this, but at one point, the species branched off, so one started becoming more like a bear, and one became more like a dog in the families Ursidae and Canidae. I did a short about this once. They are still closely related, and in the fossil record, we have a transitional species or two where the creature looked like a cross between the two, one of which is Amphicyonidae, hard to pronounce, but it existed all over the world. But here's the thing, to this day, they are still both from the same species in Carnivora, and they will always give birth to Carnivora. Likewise, today, they will always individually give birth to bears and dogs. From here, he gives the usual speech saying the universe isn't billions of years old, and he gave proof, which we debunked here. Then he says he proved the Big Bang is a lie, which we also debunked here. And then he says he proved the geologic column was a lie when he didn't, and it just asserted that the flood was the cause, which we proved is not the case. He goes on for a good bit about the column because its very existence is a factual defeater for his young Earth, so he says stupid things, like this.
All the layers of the Earth are the same age. I keep asking him, guys, you're claiming the layers are different ages. I got a geologic timeline here somewhere, I think. Anyway. They claim the layers are different ages. I say, you think the top one is younger? They'll say, oh yeah, the law of superposition. That is not a law at all. It's not even a common sense theory. Okay? If the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Outer space?
Yes, it is correct to say that the material itself is all from the Big Bang, but technically, it is not true that the atoms are the same age. What is more true is that every single atom is a different age from stellar nuclear fusion. But that isn't where I wanted to go here. The material is still all relatively the same age, yes, but when we say the layers are of different ages, we mean the layers came to the surface at different times. And we can measure when they came to the surface using radiometric dating methods as well as other methods to get the approximate times for the layers to come about. We talked about this in depth last week and a bit more, but if you haven't checked out last week's video, please go have a look after the end of this video or check out my playlist to see my coverage of Kent's entire seminar series. Shameless plug.
Shame on you.
From there, he claims that mutations do not create new information and reposts the statement from Pierre-Paul Legras that mutations do not produce any kind of evolution. You know, the guy that believes in evolution through self-improvement. So yes, genetic mutations will cause minor differences in a creature, and I am including the human creature. These genetic mutations can range from better vision, smarter brain, to a bigger dick.
Oh, getting cakey!
And it can also range from being easily susceptible to disease, mental deficiencies, blindness, and sterility, all of which would make it harder to procreate. But that's the thing. Not all mutations will be beneficial. In fact, it is rare one will be beneficial. But once one beneficial mutation starts, others follow while the mutation makes its way through the species until the population all have that beneficial mutation. Either way, unlike Kent claims without evidence, beneficial mutations do occur and rewrite existing information or add all new sequences into the DNA code.
What tonight we're going to cover, they talk about macroevolution, where an animal changes to another kind of animal. There is no evidence whatsoever for macroevolution.
Oh, good. At least we are now getting into his point. Took us, what, how long? 7.5 minutes of trudging through his video to get to his actual topic at hand? So, what is macroevolution? Macroevolution is essentially the culmination of microevolutions until a species turns into a new species. We have proofs of microevolution in things like the peppered moth, Darwin's finches, where animals' changes in allele frequencies caused a change in the animals over time. In the case of the peppered moth, it was the color of their wings and bodies to the population, and in the finches, it was the shape and size of their beaks. Coincidentally, we already went over one piece of evidence of macroevolution, carnivores and the dog bear. The existence of those fossils shows evidence that he says doesn't exist. So right away, his claims of a lack of evidence is wrong. We have it, and in several other transitional species all over the planet.
Alrighty, job well done.
Does this mean we're done here? Is that the video?
Keep going.
Well, okay, let's see what else he has to say.
Macroevolution. God said very clearly in his word,
I don't give a shit what you think God said, Kent. You're just trying to get things to fit the narrative that you want to think is in place. Quit it, dumbass.
so macroevolution refers to large-scale evolution. For some, this means the origin of species. We talked before about how the word species has 26 different definitions. Nobody's ever got a good, clear definition of species. They say, what's a kind? Well, God said if they can bring forth, they're the same kind.
So first of all, there are not that many definitions. My co-host and I thought it prudent to pause here because Kent hastily jumps off to his slide. Let's start off with what a species is. And for this, I'll use a dictionary. Whoa, that's a lot. 11 in total. Let's turn it back a bit and just talking about biological life. Much better. Now, the more astute of you would notice that the first time this was pulled up, the word kind was in there as a synonym. Kind, sort, and type are synonyms in some ways, but less scientific words. And we are in this for the science, so we'll use the scientific terms. Though we still have the word kind in there a couple of times. What you want to take away from this is the similarities of all these definitions. They are talking about the same thing every time, a class of individuals. The human race is one of those classes. The third definition in the short list is the scientific definition. The last one is more closely associated with the word specimen. So yes, when we use the word species in science, we're using that specific definition. Shall we see what Kent's kind says as a definition? What the actual fuck? Where am I? Get this shit out of here. Better. 15 definitions of the word kind, and not one of them scientific. The closest we could get is a group united by common traits or interests. So when the Bible mentions the word kind, it's talking about things that are similar in the short term, not like the species as a whole. So let's see what Kent's definition of kind is when it comes to biology. Think he has one?
No.
Let's hold out a little hope.
All macroevolutionary processes take place in populations and the genotypes of individuals, and thus simultaneously microevolutionary processes. Meyer said. I'll debate any of these guys anytime. Okay, it's not true.
Another hand wave dismissal. Kent has to show some evidence in all of this. Let's look for some. We can sit here and insult Kent all day long, but it doesn't teach anything. Now, Kent says something funny. Kent goes on for a few minutes talking about how cows can jump, but they can't jump over the moon. Well, no shit. But it all culminates to his point.
Maybe they can go another inch higher next year. I don't care. But they're not going to jump over the moon. This is what you atheists do not get. Yes, there are variations within the kind, but there are limits. I don't know how you can't get that. Stop and think. You think an amoeba, a protozoa, turned to a whale. Protozoa have variations and mutations, and they're still protozoa.
Microevolution. Kent just admitted to it. A cow being able to jump a little higher as a population is microevolution. If two cows are being chased by coyotes, and one can jump a little higher or runs a little faster to be able to get away, that one is going to pass on its genes. The other one is dead, so eventually the entire population has this new trait. The point is, all the cows that can jump higher will be able to get away easier. So eventually, while these traits manifest, the population as a whole can jump higher. But there is no evolutionary benefit to jump over the fucking moon, let alone a tree. Plus, there are limits, but there are animals that break these limits. Like a butterfly can fly up as high as it wants until the air gets too thin and there is enough air to push off of. But there is nothing biological that would make them not need to intake oxygen. And there is no food up there for them to consume, so there's no biological need for it at all. So they don't evolve to go into space. But there was a biological need for a creature to get up into space. Evolution would select for it. The limit is biological needs for the species and not just a limitation on strength or some other trait.
What are the four processes of evolution? Natural selection? Well, that's not going to make anything evolve. Natural selection can only select what's available. If I said, I want to create a world of people that are 45 feet tall, so I'm going to go through and kill everybody under 45 feet. Would that create a population of 45-footers? No. There's nobody over 45 foot to select from, is there? Now, if I said, I want to create a population of 7-foot people and kill everybody under 7 feet, we probably could do that and probably find, what, a few thousand 7-footers in the world and let them do the crossbreeding to get the next generation. And over a few generations like that, we might get a whole world full of 7-foot people. Do you think we'll ever get a world full of 500-foot tall people?
No, but we would get a population of 40-foot tall people, eventually. Let me explain. Over the past century and a half, humans have gotten taller on average by 10 centimeters. 10, really? 10 centimeters in industrialized countries. Currently in the US, the average height is just under 5'9", making it a little taller than average. I am 5'11". Now, let's say something happens and it becomes more beneficial to be even taller. The average height would keep rising as people that are shorter find it harder to survive. Like the giraffe. They evolved with a long neck, making them taller to reach more food than ones with a shorter neck. They did not always have a long neck, as seen in the fossil record. A gradual change from Prodemotherium up to Hononotherium, leading to the modern-day giraffe, with their bodies and necks getting longer and longer. That is natural selection. But if that were a design, I do have a question. The recurrent laryngeal nerve in all mammals goes from the throat down into the body, around the aortic arch near your heart, to go all the way back up to your brain. For those of us with a shorter neck, this is still a bit of a long way around, but for the giraffes, it's really out of the way. From the base of the throat near the jawline, this nerve travels all the way down the giraffe's neck to go around the exact same aortic arch. If that is a design, it's the equivalent of, say, buying a gas generator to plug in a toaster that is sitting next to an outlet in the wall that no one's using. Sure, it'll work. You get toast. But it's a stupid idea. And that is evolution. It doesn't make things perfect. It just makes things functional. So the question then is, why would an all-intelligent, all-knowing, and perfect being make something that is so flawed in its basic concept?
Genetic drift. It drifts around within the barriers of the limits.
Wait, what?
I agree. Angel, play that again.
Genetic drift. It drifts around within the barriers of the limits, mutations, and gene flow. Okay.
Kent just admitted to macroevolution, and he has no idea he just did. So if you accept natural selection and genetic drift, those are both the key components to evolution via mutations. So if he accepted genetic drift, he must therefore accept mutations, since that is the cause of the other two. Gene flow is migratory, where a population moves from one area to the other, and thus evolution then causes change so the population adapts to the new environment. But genetic drift. Yes, it will adhere to the limits, but the limits of the environment. Genetic drift will cause a population to adapt for the area they are moved into, or if the area undergoes a change. The peppered moth is a perfect example of genetic drift. The coal and sooty areas causing a genetic drift that favored the darker wings moths to thrive while the lighter wings got eaten. But those are the building blocks for all forms of evolution, including macroevolution. Kent, you just admitted to it all.
Yeah, bitch!
Kent needs to stop talking in general. He literally goes on for another 2.5 minutes about the dogs become dogs, cows become cows bit he's famous for. He doesn't even remotely understand what he's saying at all. I seriously want to debate him.
Charlie Darwin wrote a book that's right here on the shelf called The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection. In there, he thought macroevolution was a result of lots of years of microevolution. Microevolution is a lousy word. We shouldn't use it, but they do, okay? It just means there's variations within the kind. That happens. The first 5 on this chart are pure religious, but they want you to believe over millions of years, minor variations within the kind will add up to macroevolution. This is a religious belief. It's not backed up by observable science.
And Charlie Darwin was right. He predicted things we would see in the fossil record in his findings. The thing to take here is, if you accept microevolution by default due to time, you would have to see macroevolution. But like I said before, you will always see the new creature still be of its old species. A bovidae will never produce a non-bovidae, and a canidae will never produce a non-canidae. Now, he mentioned the other 5 being religion. Let's see what they are. Angel and demon, you can pull up the text there for us, so it's small. He's like trying to hide it.
Of course, sir.
Thank you.
Let's do this.
Okay, so the Big Bang can be evidenced through the CMB, which Kent in the past has acknowledged is factual, and the galaxies are moving away from us, and that space is expanding. Kent has thusly accepted the evidence for the Big Bang. Chemical evolution is stellar in origin and is how the sun gives off heat. We observe chemical evolution every day when we look up and see the sun. Stellar and planetary evolution. We have seen stars in various stages of formation, but star formation doesn't happen over fucking night. We have also seen all the stages of star formation, and Kent has shown it in a slide in the first video I posted. Angel, if you'd be so kind as to flick that up above me. Just the picture he showed, please. There we go. So the top right is a gas cloud, top left is the gravitational effects condensing the gas cloud, bottom right is the formation of planetary material around a protostar in the accretion disk, and the bottom right is the star itself, lighting and starting the process of nuclear fusion. I'm feeling a bit cramped. Thank you. Macroevolution, again, is a shitload of microevolutions that eventually change one species into a new species, which we've observed with the London Underground mosquito, which can no longer mate with its above-ground counterparts. So, all of Kent's accusations of it are being religious is bullshit. And he's either accepted them as true, shown evidence they are true, or we have mathematical proofs they are true. So once again, Kent...
How does it feel to be such a total failure?
He has no feelings. You have to have brain to have feelings.
Touché.
Kent is a moron. Does he have anything else to say?
What is an example of microevolution? Oh, pesticide resistance. It's still the same insect. If you sprayed all the flies and 95% of them died, and 5% had some kind of resistance built in already, the pesticide didn't hurt them. So those 5% get to make the next generation of flies. And now 60% of those flies, their babies, are resistant. So you spray them again, and you kill 40% of them. Those 60% that survive already had the resistance. Now they make the next generation. After a couple generations like that, all the flies are resistant to your new pesticide.
You two were supposed to find me a clip of something he said that was stupid.
What? They say insane shit all the time. How was I supposed to know this one was true?
Fair enough. But, yeah, this is a pristine example of guided microevolution. And if you keep making stronger and stronger pesticides, you will get stronger and stronger pests until the pests can't be killed anymore by that pesticide, but then are weak against other kinds of pesticides, and you use that.
See, science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Is there anybody here that thinks teachers or textbooks should be allowed to deliberately lie to students? Should they be allowed to deliberately lie? No. Wisconsin has a law that says textbooks shall be accurate. Go get them, Wisconsin. They don't enforce it. Alabama has a law. Textbooks shall be adequate and current. That's a good law. Why don't you enforce it, Alabama?
Okay, that's it. Kent goes on for 5 minutes straight. 5 minutes straight, bringing up a grand total of 0 evidence, and just shows state after state saying they have laws to teach facts. Play the first few seconds of that clip, please.
See, science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate.
There we go. Kent's personal criteria for science. So Kent, once and for all, show me scientifically that the Bible is true. You yourself said you think evolution isn't science. So, do science, motherfucker. Do it. Show me some kind of experiment or experiments that everything in the Bible is true that can be observed, studied, tested, and demonstrated. You said that's a must-have criteria, but I have sat here through countless hours of your haphazardly bullshit videos and debunked every single claim while inside a fursuit on a high school education and a few hours of basic research. Research you claim you have done, but I find actual answers. You have hand-waved dismissals and call things silly, baloney, stupid, and dumb as if that's your personal version of science. You have never once been successful in a debate. You embarrass yourself on a daily basis with this outright drivel. I would ask you to retire, but you are the most broke millionaire in the world, begging for money by lying to the children you brought over to your dinosaur subversion land. You give them rides to play on and make a nice fun outing for them while telling them everyone in the world is lying to them and you are the one speaking truth. So fine, show me the truth. Show me. Demonstrate how the Bible is true so it can be tested, studied, and observed. You won't because you can't. Skip and fast forward through your entire seminar because one singular piece of undeniable and testable evidence would shatter the entire foundation of every school system you blasted through for 5 minutes and would get God taught as fact in every single one of them. But you won't because you can't. Because your God doesn't exist. I am Corsi. This is the Fluffy Atheist. Like what you see? Pet those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, a little research does go a long way. Let the Fluffy Atheist do it for you.